So quickly before the video starts, I want to apologize that the first clips don't have nearly as good lighting as the other clips. That's because it's pretty dark in here, even though it was like 10 in the morning. So sorry about that. Continue the video. Hello, so if you're like me, you probably like modern metal with low-tuned guitars. And if you clicked this video, it probably means you own the HX Stomp as well. So in this video, I'll show how you can get a usable modern metal tone in the HX Stomp, which I've struggled for a very long time to get like a good scooped enough tone. So to demo this, I will use my Ibanez RGD71ALMS with Fishman Fluence modern pickups in it, tuned to drop B with a low F sharp. So the bottom 6 strings or top 6 strings are tuned to drop B, and the low is a 74 gauge tuned to F sharp. So here's the full demo mix with the Ibanez RGD71ALMS tuned to drop B with a low F sharp. So now you heard the tone in a full demo mix, so let's just jump into HX Edit and see what the tone is all about. So now we're here in HX Edit, and this is the signal chain. First off, we of course have the noise gate, input gate on. This is personal preference at which point you like it. I like it pretty tight, the gate, so I put it at -35. I don't know what the decay is, 100 milliseconds. I probably should put it as low as possible because I want a tight gate. And then the input Z, or whatever this is, I put it at 230k ohm. I know many like to use auto or 1 million ohm. The 1 million was a little bit too bright. So when I put it through the amp, it had like too much sizzle or something, which is why I used the 230. So it's a little bit duller, more dull, and it helps keeping the clarity with the low notes of the drop F sharp guitar. And then the guitar pad is at global. I haven't touched that at all, I assume. Then if I want to use a pitch shifter, I have it mapped there. If you don't need this, like you just play in one tuning and that's all, you can take this out of the chain, put it more EQ, or if you want to put a compressor in front of the amp, I don't have the blocks here. You can do that if you don't want the pitch shifter at all. But if you want the pitch shifter, remember to put the shift level, the mix at 100%, so it doesn't play like 50-50, because that's not gonna sound great if you want a pitch shifter. Then we have an EQ before any distortion or amp pedals. This is the simple EQ module pedal, and I take out some of the low end so it doesn't get fed into the amp with so much low end, so it sounds more clean. And then I have boosted some 1K to 3.5 dB. That helps kinda put out the pick attack which helps again with the clarity. And then I've put some high gain, which helps again with the clarity. You can boost this more if you have, for example, very old strings or very boomy pickups. For example, the activators in the Jackson over there, they are a little bit muddier compared to the Fishman pickups, because active pickups many times use more focused mid-range and more highs and less lows. So you can boost that up if you want to. I tried like 9 dB is a bit too much. So you can boost this, I think 6 dBs is even good. And it still won't sound like a shrill or anything like that. Level is at 0. Then next we have the Horizon drive. I know many gent-oriented guitarists like to use the 808, which is a good pedal, but I just love the Horizon drive. Usually when people make tight rhythm tones, they like to put the gain or the drive at like very low, like 0.5 or even just 0. But I felt that when we go to the amp, if the drive is very low, it kind of like when you play, it doesn't respond as well with the HX Stomp, at least. So I put the drive at 1.5, so it like gives a little bit of gain when going into the amp. So this is how I don't have to use a compressor, because it like this kind of compresses it while still giving some tone in the signal. And then the attack knob is F3. As you can see from the preset name, this is originally made for the Jackson guitar, but I figured this works really well with the Ibanez as well, with the Fishmans. So the attack 2 to 3, if you have very cheap pickups that have tons of low end, it could be great if you want to go even to the 4th setting, if you don't want to take the low end as much in the EQ. But I figured it's better to take the lows out, so it's when I switch guitars, it's more universal when I don't need this pedal to do the heavy lifting, and the EQ can do a bit of that. Then the brightness is at 3.7. So this tone is like I made it when I took like the extreme end on one end and extreme at another end, and the middle point. I recorded a clip from the same riff in the different settings, and I decided what I like. And the 5 was still a bit too bright, so I put it at like 3.7 and it was good. Then because we want some more tightness to the sound, I put the gate to 10 and the level is at 10. I don't remember if it's originally at 10. But yeah, I just figured these are the good settings. And then we get to the amp. So the amp is, if I remember correctly, it's pretty new amp, this Line6 Oblivion. And of course, when I think about low-tuned guitars, I think of, especially in drop F sharp, I think of Mike Stringer, who likes to use 5150s. But I've noticed that the PV Panama, which is the equivalent of 5150, is really kinda boomy. Same with the dual rectifiers and that. So I don't want a boomy tone with already like boomy notes, because it's tuned so low. So I also tried the Revgen Purple. I know Sonic Drive Studio and many others have done low-tuned tones with the RevGen Purple. And I believe I also tried the diesel amp, or das Benzin, but because Joseph Northlane apparently used them at some point. But I just figured that the Oblivion is actually the best for this. I know some people with like drop A guitars may use the Placater or the Friedman amp. But I went with the Oblivion because with the default settings it had the most high end and the least low end. With the most high end I don't mean like it was shrill or like very chainsaw-y kind of tone. It was like it had the clarity in the treble that many amps miss with the HX Stomp. So the drive I set quite low, 3.5, bass at 4, mid at 5.7, treble at 5. If the sound is very boxy to you, you probably should take out the mid from 5.7 to more like 4 or something, or clean it up with an EQ pedal as we are probably doing over there. Then presence at 3.1. The treble and presence knobs are quite low because, as I said, the amp has quite a lot of high end on its own. Then channel volume at 4.8. Boost is off. If I remember correctly, the boost took a little too much out of the low end and put a little more harshness or something in like the 1.5 to 2.5 range, which is the frequency that I'm the least fan of. And when I started making tones like a year or two ago, I took an EQ and just cut the 2.5, 1.7, 1.8 kilohertz, like 8 dB. And then the sag is at 0. If I remember this correctly, this is a pretty old tone, but if I remember correctly, I still have the file. The sag made the tone a little too like not tight. It was like very loose, low end, and that kind of stuff. Hum off, bias and bias X at 4. These are the settings that I fiddled the most by making many samples and flipping them back to forth, which is the best one. I'll leave the impulse response for the last because it's a trick that I like to explain last. By the way, it seems, if I can check the YouTube stats correctly, that only 6% of you watching have subscribed. So if you like this type of stuff, modern metal, tones, playthroughs, all that kind of stuff, remember to subscribe and like the video. I hope I'm doing the YouTube thing correctly. Let's continue with the video, shall we? Reverb, dynamic plate. These, I believe I just made these settings just by listening what sounds good in my opinion. And what type of delay? Simple delay. As you can see, these are not on their own paths or anything. The reverb feeds into the delay and so on. If you don't want any lead type of stuff, for example, this is the rhythm snapshot, you can get rid of this and shape the EQ more or something if you want. And then the EQ here is actually just cutting a bit at 125 hertz. And this I did today because I listened to some of my other tones which are done with different IRs and stuff, and I found out that this is quite a boomy tone if I don't cut anything from the low end. So I figured the 125 is the range that it struggled the most. So if you feel like the tone is really boxy with you, you can probably take this 500 hertz and cut it a bit. So now we get to the impulse response section. And the IR, low cut at 80, high cut at 9.9. mix 100% level -18. So the IR, this is the trickiest part in this one. So I did it. So if you've done tones with the default cabs, you may know they sound a bit dull. There isn't much low end, there isn't much high end. It's very mid-focused and like, which probably could sound good with post-production and mixing and that kind of stuff. But I wanted this to be like plug and play tone. So if I want to play at home or at stage, if I ever get to the stage, I want this to be like the tone that I just plug and it sounds good in my in-ears or my headphones when I'm playing at home. Live, the front of house guy can do whatever he wants to the tone. If he doesn't like it, then they will probably do something for it. So I did it like I had a tone, I had this tone, and I recorded a bit of it in Ableton. And that bit, so you can do this in two ways. If you know what you're looking for in a tone, for example, if it's really boxy and you just want to cut some 500 hertz, for example, you just put an EQ in your DAW and cut the 500 hertz and then save that as an IR. There are many type of IR making samples online. I've found, I don't remember who it was, but someone told in YouTube how to make an impulse response, and he had like samples for different sample rates. It's like a click sample, and you put it and you export it as a WAV file and you download it as an impulse response in your device, in this instance HX Stomp. Or you can do it like me, like I use Neural DSP plugins and I like the sound of them. So I wanted to capture my Neural DSP tone and get as close as it can with this one. So I took my tone that I've made with this technique in the software, I mean the DAW, and I played a bit with that into Ableton. So now I had two clips. I had this preset and then I had my good tone that I like, that I still play through every day that I play guitar. So then I took a EQ match plugin and I got these both tones into the EQ match. And then I can show you here. So I took this Ozone 11 match EQ. The reference was, of course, the Neural DSP. And I wanted to apply the EQ profile to this HX edit. So this, I didn't take any IRs from the Neural DSP stuff. I just took the EQ profile and slided this amount to the one that it didn't sound like too scratchy or anything, that it sounded great, and I exported that as an IR and put it here. So yeah, that's how I do the impulse response thing. So I assume that is the tone at its full glory. So if you like this tone, remember to like, subscribe to the Left Gate YouTube channel, listen to the Left Gate in Spotify or any music streaming service that you have. I've been Lucas Grain from the Left Gate. Bye.